One. What's good, everybody? It's your boy Soupy with episode 3 of All You Can Talk Sports. This one's coming a little late. We had a bit of a delay. I had things to attend to, but we're here nonetheless with Mario McCarp. Man, how you doing today, boy?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. How about you?
It's been a long day, man. It's been a long day, but good nonetheless. Hey, got a lot to talk about. It's mostly football. I like that. I like that. We all love football for the love of football. But Monday Night Football last night, man, it was something else. I gotta ask you, man, watching that Chiefs and Bills game, what you think? Who was your winners and losers? Obviously, we know who won and lost, but who really won and lost? What do you think?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, obviously, I think he's a winner every week. Patrick Mahomes. He went 21 for 26. He had 225 passing yards, two TDs. He protected the ball and no interceptions. But this is what we expect from Patrick Mahomes, an obvious winner. But Clyde Edwards-Helaire, two rushes, 161 yards. I count that as a winner. You know, the rushing game was on point. It didn't cause Patrick Mahomes to throw the ball 40 times like he usually does. It was more of like a split game. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It seemed like they split the run and pass pretty evenly, which is something that I don't think the Chiefs do a lot this year. Um, Darrell Williams, their second running back, he had one rushing touchdown. I think that really helped. Demarcus Robinson, he had five receptions for 69 yards. Travis Kelce had five receptions for 65 yards, and he had two TDs. So I think he was a big winner in this game. And Daniel Sorensen, he had a pick, and defense, I think that was probably the MVP right there. That pick. For the Bills, on the other hand, Josh Allen, he played decent. He could have played a little bit better. He had two TDs. He had a pick. 14 for 27. It's not that bad of a game, but again, against that Kansas City Chiefs team, he's got to play. He had to play a lot better. They did a good job locking down Stephon Diggs, Cole Beasley to less than 50 yards. Each of them had a touchdown, but it didn't seem like it really affected the game. Jordan Poyer, their safety, he had 10 total tackles, one tackle for loss. So I think he did very well defensively. Mario Addison had a sack. Tremaine Edmonds, he had 12 total tackles, which led his team in defense and tackles that game. And Devin Singletary, I think, that was somebody who needed to show up, but he just didn't. 10 rushes for 32 yards. That running game had to be more on point. It had to, and Devin Singletary just didn't do good that game. So if I had to take away one thing from this game, it's obviously Patrick Mahomes being great, but it's also just the Bills not doing enough offensively. I'm not going to say they were terrible. They only lost by 9 points, but offensively, the Bills just didn't do enough. They didn't get past 20 points. Their defense actually, held their ground. Their average was 28. They held them to 26, which is a little less than their average, but um, honestly, there's not many major losers in this game. Devin Singletary, I think he had the most disappointing game, but when you're playing a team like the Kansas City Chiefs, you just expect more of that Buffalo Bills offense, and they just didn't show up. What'd you see, Nate?
It's like you said, it's hard to tell. Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes. What do you expect? He's great at what he does. One of the next goats. Um, I don't really got a lot to say on both sides. It's hard to tell who's the loser, but I can easily say otherwise for the other game we're about to talk about. The Cowboys, man, they got slaughtered. My mom's pretty heated about it. I'm gonna tell you right now. My mom's a diehard Cowboys fan. She's pretty mad about it. But you know what, Mario? We know who the true winners and losers are of this game. Let me ask you a question, Mario. What's wrong with the Cowboys? What's aside from Dak Prescott? Because we know him gone is a big problem for the Cowboys. But let me ask you a question. What's really wrong with the Cowboys aside from Dak Prescott?
It's their defense. I don't think I got to say anything else. Their defense was expected to be one of the best defenses this year. I mean, if you look who's on that team, man, um, Lawrence, you got Everson Griffin. You had Alden Smith come in, Leighton Vander Jalen Smith. Trying to think. Now you got these prominent rookies like Trayvon Diggs coming in, And like this Cowboy defense, they were expected to do great things, and they're the worst defense in the league this year. Something's got to give. And so, with that being said, um, that's what it comes down to, man. I think that defensive coordinator for the Cowboys, I think he's going to be fired next year because um because their offense is third in the league. There is no problem with that offense. If their defense was just a little bit better, Cowboys could be on a winning record. They could either be 500% if they were at the 32, or they could easily be a winning team. But because of that defense is really slowing them down. And it's up
Offense
for
barely showed up too.
right. But this game, the offense barely showed up. The offense
You
didn't
know,
do too good.
Amari Cooper going 7 receiving, 79 yards. He had a touchdown, which is okay.
Yeah,
It's
so
the only one in the game.
he was a big winner. CeeDee Lamb, he had 7 receptions for
Lamb,
64
Ezekiel
yards.
Elliott had 2 fumbles. Andy Dalton only completed 34 to 54, which isn't bad, but he had 20 incompletes. That needs a lot of
Right.
work.
And he had 2 picks to 1 TD.
Not that
And
great.
again, I'm gonna say this. The biggest if there's a biggest loser to this game, it is Ezekiel Elliott. I'm not calling him a loser or nothing like that, but that game, Elliott did not step up. This was a game where Dak Prescott is hurt, and they needed Ezekiel Elliott to come in and ball out if they were going to have a chance of beating this high-powered offensive Cardinals team. And he just didn't do it. You cannot turn over the ball 2 times. And he went from being he went from the expectations of being their star offensive player that game to probably the worst offensive player the whole game. And that is a big drop, and he can't be doing that. So if they're gonna have any chance of winning this season, going further, Ezekiel Elliott has to protect that ball. And again, it could be a bad game, so we can let him slide. But again, Ezekiel Elliott is going to have to have some huge games in order to keep this Cowboys team in the playoff hunt. And I get what you're saying. They're in terrible NFC East. I understand that. But again, you got a team like the
They have,
Eagles. They're about to come on your back.
they
So
have
you
a job.
need
They
to,
have a job to do.
yeah, you have a job to do. And you don't want to put yourself in a bad situation to where you got to play one of these high-powered teams come the second round of the playoffs,
Right.
come to the divisional round of the playoffs, because you can get past the wild card, and then you might have to go up against a team like the Packers, a team like the Seahawks. What are you gonna do then? So
Right.
Ezekiel Elliott has to be better. Andy Dalton has to make sure he throws less picks. It's just as simple as that. We're not asking Andy Dalton to be Dak Prescott. We're not asking for that. But what we're asking from Andy Dalton is to protect that ball.
See,
But you know what? There are some winners on defense, dude. Anthony Brown had a sack, so that's a good thing. I think he's really stepping up on his defense. Jalen Smith had 10 total tackles, 1 tackle for a loss, but another, not really a loser, but another guy who could easily just put up points on the board. Greg Zuerlein, he went 1 for 2. He missed a kick. These points, they have to be on the board, because we expected a high offensive game. We expected high points on that board. But again, let's suppose this game was a high scoring game, right? And the
right.
Cardinals and the Cowboys were high scoring. They were like neck and neck. That missed kick by Greg Zuerlein could have cost them the game if that was the case. But obviously it wasn't, because the Cowboys offense just didn't show up, and the defense definitely didn't show up. So it's up to Greg Zuerlein. It's up to people like Ezekiel Elliott, Andy Dalton. They have to carry the load, okay? And they have to do their job. It's just as simple as that.
Right.
I would have liked to see a little bit more from Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb, but they didn't have bad games. So I don't think they really lost this week. Posted them, but as a team, the Cowboys team just lost. But I'll say this: everybody on that Cardinals team, I think, was a winner. Everyone.
Absolutely.
If I had to pick one, what were you saying?
Before I get to the stats on the Cardinals, Cardinals in general, their offense was absolutely explosive. I want to add on to what you said about what's the biggest loser on the Cowboys in general. You said the defense. I think it's that and the coaching staff. They have a lot to work with. I mean, despite Dak being gone, they still got some very valuable pieces. Like you said, Ezekiel Elliott, CeeDee Lamb. What's his name? Marley Cooper. He's got those pieces. He's got more pieces, but that's just to name a few. And his offensive coordinator wasn't getting the plays right. Defensively, same situation. He wasn't getting the job done. I think Mike McCarthy, I heard him say a quote, I was on Facebook the other day. I think it was, no, it wasn't the other day. It was earlier today. and I shared it too, because he said Mike McCarthy, cool, after the game, he said we've been most prepared all year. Really? So what you're telling me is, and excuse my language here, you were prepared to get your ass beat like that? Really? Like I'm not sure. He's got to get it. He's got to get it together, because you can't lose games like that. I mean, I'm not saying win every single game you play. Obviously, that's not going to happen. But you can't lose like that. That's a crucial game you had to win, and you lost by 28 points. You only scored 10. And you're saying you were prepared? You were not prepared.
Well, hang on.
Enough with
One thing
that.
one thing I want to touch up on that is the offense did a bad job, and they shouldn't be excused for that. But on the other side, the defense has been so bad that it has been forcing the offense to probably be putting up the numbers that they're putting up.
Because they have no momentum.
Dak Prescott was on track to breaking the passing yards on a single season. He was on track to do that. But the only reason why he was on track to do that is because that defense made him do that. That defense has not been performing, and because of that, Dak Prescott was forced to sling the ball. But here's the thing. They cannot get this type of pressure on the Cowboys offense. The defense has to do their job. It has to. And that's the problem.
Absolutely.
But we're going to get off of that. Everybody on this Cardinals team, I think, was a winner.
Let me get to the stats real quick. Kyler Murray, 2 passing touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown, 74 rushing yards, 188 passing yards. This man is a baller.
And here's the thing. He is. And here's the thing, though. He might have been the most underperforming offensive player on this team, and I'm gonna explain why. If you look at the completion percentage, he only completed 9 passes, I think, he under 50% of his passes, but he made up for it with his rushing. But let me tell you who I think the biggest winner on this offense is. Let's go to Kenyon Drake.
Drake, man.
20 rushes, 164 yards, and 2 rushing touchdowns. That right there, that's the biggest winner on that offensive Cardinals team right there from yesterday.
DeAndre Hopkins had a nice night, 2 receiving, 73 yards.
Yeah, Christian Kirk,
another one,
86 yards, 2 reception touchdowns. Then you go to the defense. Where do I even start? Jordan Phillips, he had a forced fumble with a fumble recovery. Budda Baker, he had a forced fumble, an interception, and a sack on a corner. When do you see that type of stuff happen? It's very rare for a corner to have those types of things: a sack, a forced fumble, and an interception. Drake Kirkpatrick had an interception that really helped, and Hassan Reddick had 2 sacks. So overall, this Cardinals team beat the brakes off of Dallas. And Dallas, this is either going to be a learning curve for Dallas. They're going to look back at it and be and learn where they need to improve, or this might be the whole season for Dallas here on out. And if it is, I don't see him win the NFC East, dude.
Now, while we're on the topic of the Cowboys, we got to talk about Jerry Jones, because he's not happy with the Cowboys. And you know what? He's got every right to be. This team had so many expectations. I get it. Use the excuse during the NFC East. I understand that. But you still have a job to do. Despite who you face, despite what happens, you got a job to do. And Jerry Jones is just not happy with what the Cowboys are doing right now. Do you agree with them?
Before I answer my question and before I give my opinion, let me just read the statement that Jerry Jones gave. If I'm allowed to read, you mind if I read it?
Yeah, of course.
All right. In Jerry Jones' words, and I quote, "I'm not in a feel-good mood, frankly, that we've got manna from heaven being in the East," Jones said on 105.3 The Fan in Dallas. "These things have a way of evening out as you go along. Certainly the NFC East is having its challenges now. When you're not playing better than we are, it's hard for me to basically look at the end game, which is win the East, and get excited that we're better, that we may be slow, but we're ahead of you. But we're ahead of you syndrome. We got to get better to have the kind of season that makes sense for us." Here's the thing. Now, let me touch up on my opinion, okay? Obviously, I'm going to say it right now. The problem with this Cowboys team is that defense. It's that defense. The other problem is that Dak's hurt, okay? But before that, they were having problems too. And that's not Dak's fault. It's not all on Dak.
I agree.
Okay? But they were having problems before that. They were having problems before that too. So Jerry Jones has to do something about this defense. He has all the talent in the world on that defense, but they're just not performing. It's not like Minnesota where you have a bunch of rookies coming in and they're not
In
performing. You know what I'm
Dallas, you
saying?
got a lot of veterans.
Yeah. It's not like the Falcons again where you have a bunch of rookies on that defense and they're not performing. It's not you have all the talent
Right.
and they're just not performing. And that's just what it's coming down to. So here's the thing. I always said this. I always feel bad for whoever gets hired by the Cowboys as a head coach. And the reason why I say that is because you look at the head coaches that have coached Dallas in the past. You go back to Tom Landry, Super Bowl winning coach. Jimmy Johnson, Super Bowl winning coach. Barry Snyder, Super Bowl winning coach. And then you go from there to Bill Parcells. And Bill Parcells, the great Bill Parcells didn't do good in Dallas, so they got rid of him. Then you went to Jason Garrett, and Jason Garrett I'm going to be honest with you. Jason Garrett, besides those last years, he had a decent coach. He was a decent coach in Dallas. Did he live up to the American team's way of coaching? No, but he was a decent coach. And now you got Mike McCarthy. The Dallas Cowboys have not had bad coaches. They haven't. But the expectation that when you're a Dallas coach, because you are the most talked about team in the NFL, because you're the most hyped team in the NFL, is people expect you to win a Super Bowl. You haven't done it in over 2 decades. And as a coach, that puts a lot of pressure on you to go win that Super Bowl and carry on that Cowboy legacy. You know what I'm saying? And the difference between them and other franchises is this. Mike Tomlin, he's won Super Bowls. I think he's won 2 Super Bowls, if I'm right. You go to the Niners, and again, the Niners have been in and out of coaches. I mean, now they have it's been a long day. Kyle Shanahan. Yeah, Kyle Shanahan. And he's doing decent, but again, if he don't start winning Super Bowls,
He's gonna get.
give it a few years, he might be going too. He might be going too. Green Bay Packers, Mike McCarthy won a Super Bowl for the Green Bay Packers.
He underperformed and he got the axe.
All these franchises, dude, they are destined to be great. There are expectations to be great. And the Cowboys, head coaches, whoever they put in, has an expectation to go in there and take that talented Cowboys roster to a Super Bowl. And honestly, this year, I'm going to be honest with you, bro. I'm going to be honest with you. If you looked at that team before this year, everybody was saying Dallas was going to be an NFC championship type team. A lot of people were saying it just by who they had on that team.
I said
so here's the thing. It's not an impossible. I'd feel bad for any other coach, but this year it is not an impossible task. You have everything in front of you.
Right.
Everything. You have everything in front of you. You have a lot of veteran defensive players. You have an insane offense. Everything is in front of you, and they're just not performing. So here's what's going to happen. Jerry Jones is going to go into that coaching staff, and a lot of people are going to get fired. The reason when Jerry Jones first stepped into the Dallas Cowboys organization, he went ham on everybody, bro. When he first stepped in, he said, you, gone, you, gone, you, gone. As soon as he stepped in, he started firing people. Guess who he hired? Jimmy Johnson. Guess what happened? They won 3 out of 4 Super Bowls. Three Super Bowls in 4 years. So Jerry Jones got to go back to that mentality. You're still the owner of the Dallas Cowboys. After this season, expect a lot of cuts at the Dallas Cowboys.
You know what?
Not just coaches, players as well.
You know what? I 100% agree. You basically touched up on everything I wanted to say. And I give much respect to Jerry Jones because he's one of the few owners that I see out there that still cares about his team. He cares about their progress, whether if it's good or bad. He's willing to talk about it to the media. Not a lot of owners are willing to do that these days, but Jerry Jones is. I gotta give him my props. I have much respect for the dude. He has every right to be pissed off. This team is underperforming. And I get it. They lost some crucial pieces. They have a lot of their players on the IR, on the injured reserve. Dak Prescott, is one of them, and that's their star. And they lost him. But I know Andy Dalton isn't as great as Dak, but he's still not that bad. Still, I mean, I think he's still got some left in the tank. I think he can still perform better. The offense needs to get their heads out of their rear ends and perform. Simple as that. The coaches need to get their heads out of their rear ends and do their damn jobs right. I'm sick and tired of going in the living room every night and hearing my mom scream at this damn team. This team needs to perform. Simple as that. And you know what? I give Jerry Jones my credit because, like I said before, not a lot of owners are willing to speak up about their team to the public, literally to the public. But Jerry Jones is. And you know what? I know he doesn't have that mentality that he had back in the 90s now, but you know what? I give him my credit. At least he cares for his team. At least he's showing that he's trying to get it straight to his players and coaches. Do your damn job. It's not that difficult. I know you lost your star, but like you said, it's not impossible. And you know what? I'm not going to count the Cowboys out just yet. It's not. There have been teams that started out 2-4 and they still made the playoffs. But if you don't get your heads out of your rear ends, it's not going to happen. Period. I have a feeling it will happen because it is the NFC East. Every other team in that league is trash. But, do your job and do it right. It's
Right,
not
but the thing is, it doesn't matter that it's the NFC East. It doesn't
Absolutely.
with the Cowboys, and that it doesn't matter if you make the playoffs and you win the NFC East, because at this point it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Do you have a chance of winning the Super Bowl when you make the playoffs? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter, because here's the thing. Here's the funny thing about the Cowboys. Despite how bad that division is, and despite how the Cowboys always make it every year, it's them or the Eagles. But the Cowboys in general, not the Eagles, but the Cowboys in general, they always, for somehow, I have no clue why, they could be playing the Seahawks, whoever, Seahawks, the Packers. I'm trying to think of good teams in the end. The Saints. It doesn't matter. There's still always a lot of fans still think they can win that game, despite how underperforming the team is every year. Fans still think they can win. But why do you think fans still think they can win? Fans still think there's a chance, a big chance, that the Cowboys can go in and beat the Green Bay Packers, can go in and beat the Rams, can go in and beat the Niners, when honestly it's a very low chance. But the fans put it at such a high level of a chance that it's almost like they're turning into a contender. But the reason why is because every single year their team is so good, roster wise, it's so good every single year, but they just can't get it done. That's why that roster right there, I'm going to be honest with you, that roster right there is just as much to blame as the coaching staff, which is why I think by the end of this year, Jerry Jones is gonna turn into the rookie owner, Jerry Jones, and get rid of everybody.
I agree, and I have a feeling that if the Cowboys underperform and they continue to do this, that's exactly what's going to happen. And you know what? Aside from all that, I had to put this in because I was watching that Cowboys game. I know this is already a thing that people know when it comes to football, us crazy football fans. The refs are horrible. Let's be honest. I watched that game. There was a couple of pass interference calls that should have been called, never were. There was one specifically on CeeDee Lamb that just got me, it set me and my mom off. I was like, you gotta be freaking kidding me, man. You know what? I had to be honest with you, dude. I know the refs weren't on their side, but you know what? At the end of the day, they still had to gain the win. They didn't win it, but the refs weren't that great either. I just wanted to put that out there because there was some blatant calls that should have been called and they weren't. And but at the end of the day, you still had a game to win in front of you, and you just didn't. I just figured I'd put that out there.
Right. I agree with that. Anything you want to add to this topic, Nate? I think I talked about everything.
I think I talked about everything. I went off on the Cowboys, so I think I'm good.
All right. You know what? We'll usually I'd probably stay in the football topic, but we'll get back to that, okay? Right now I want to talk about the Indiana Pacers. So today they hired a new coach in Nate Bjorkgren. I'm just gonna give you a little bit of his resume. So he was an assistant coach behind Nick Nurse in Toronto. He won the 2018 title with Toronto as an assistant coach. So he has an NBA championship. He also won a title in Iowa in 2011. I guess which is pretty impressive. He reached the G League finals with Santa Cruz in 2013. And he arrived in the NBA in 2015 as an assistant coach in Phoenix. So my question to you, Nate, is: do you think it looks like a decent resume, but this guy's never head coached an NBA team before, And obviously, in order to be a head coach, you need to get that type of experience. But do you think this is what the Indiana Pacers need, or do you think they should? I'm sorry, I keep saying it's been a long day. Do you think this
It's
is
all
what
right.
the Indiana Pacers need, or do you think they should have went to a veteran coach?
It's tough to tell because me personally, I believe you should have went for a veteran coach. But this dude has a decent resume. He's got a championship in the NBA. He's got a couple of college championships. However, the one thing I see wrong with this, like you said, he hasn't been a head coach before. And in my eyes, despite the championship runs he's been at, that could play an issue because he's never had that head coach position. He's had the assistant coach. That's different. The head coach, you're running the entire damn thing. So it's like, it's tough to tell. Maybe he'll do a good job, maybe he won't. I personally lean a little more to the side that they should have gotten the veteran coach, but I can understand why they got him because he does have a solid resume behind him. But as far as I'm concerned, I personally don't think this will be a good idea for the Pacers. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it will turn out to be a good idea. Maybe they'll turn everything around, go back to the playoffs, maybe go a little deeper this time. They've been swept the last 2 years. They haven't won a playoff game in,
Well, let me
I don't
ask
know how
something. Do
long
you
it's
think
been.
that the Pacers are going to reach the playoffs again this year with this coach?
Well, it depends on chemistry. Like I said, he was the assistant coach with the Raptors. He won the title. He was just in the playoffs. He went deep with the Celtics. Unfortunately, he fell to my Celtics. But I believe that experience could help him. He's been in the finals, so he knows he knows what it do. I the question remains. Is he gonna be a good head coach? That's the question that needs to be asked. He's never had that exact position, but with that experience, I think it really all depends on chemistry, in my opinion. I really think if the chemistry works out in the long run, and they do what's right, then maybe they do have a shot at the playoffs.
Well, let me touch up on this. And you made a good like an analysis right there, but I'm gonna disagree with you. And for the reason why is so when you look at this Phoenix Suns, I'm sorry, not Phoenix Suns team. And it's been a long day for me, dude.
I
I was playing
understand, man.
volleyball before I started this YouTube channel. I'm like all sandy and stuff. I
Oh
wasn't thinking
man.
straight outside. I'm definitely not thinking straight right now.
No, I
But
understand.
when you look at this Pacer team, yeah. But when you look at this Pacer team, there's a lot of stars going up on the rise. I mean, obviously you have Victor Oladipo. I assume TJ Warren is probably going to be an all-star if he performs next year the way he did in his bubble. Um, and they also got like certain rookies that might come in too and make a big impact, like Goga or that rookie Goga from this year. They got Miles Turner, who's a great inside defender. So I think this could be good for him. One thing that he's got going for him is the teams that he has coached. Um, he took he took the Santa Cruz team in a G League to a 2013 Finals appearance, which is not bad for a coach, despite it's not in the NBA. I understand that, but it looked like he had something going on with that Santa Cruz team. 2018, he was an assistant coach behind Nick Nurse, and Nick Nurse is a great coach. See. Here's the thing: I doubted Nick Nurse when he first came in. I doubted him because I seen how good the Toronto Raptors were playing with Kawhi, and I'm saying to myself, this coach is doing all. The only reason why this coach looks so good is because of Kawhi Leonard.
Right.
Kawhi Leonard does that. But then when Kawhi Leonard left, again, this is what I was talking about episode 1 with Tyronn Lue and how Doc Rivers proved himself when he didn't have that big three no more. Or when the big three in Boston left and when he left, or when the big three in LA left, when Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, and DeAndre Jordan left, Doc Rivers stayed with the Clippers and proved, hey, I'm a good coach. I took this Clippers team and what they had to a 40 plus win season, and they made the playoffs and won 6 games with the Golden State Warriors. So Nick Nurse proved that too. He did the same thing when Kawhi Leonard left. It was up to him to figure out what he was going to do with this Toronto Raptors team, and they had a better record this year than they did last year with Kawhi. And they go into the playoffs, and did they win the NBA Finals? No, they ran into a Game 7 and lost that Game 7 to that very good Boston Celtics team. So Nick Nurse proved that. So again, he's gonna have to prove himself as a young coach. He's got a good team around him, a decent team around him. Depending on what his system is, I'll say. And I didn't do a lot of research on his system, but depending on what kind of system he runs, and depending on what kind of players usually score in that system, or what type of system this is, and what kind of abilities this system brings out of certain players, will determine how long his run will be in Indiana. And let me just give you there was some notable veteran coaches that they could have signed, and I'm gonna tell you who they are. Okay, you want to hear?
I'm listening.
Cool. All right, so they could have signed Kenny Atkinson, the former head coach for the Brooklyn Nets. Brett Brown, the former head coach of the Philadelphia 76ers, which personally I think Brett Brown could have did a really good job with this team, because the one thing that Brett Brown's team was so underrated with, they had Ben Simmons, who was a great passer. He's a great driver. That's true. They had
Right.
Joel Embiid, who I could see he's like a better Miles Turner, but Miles Turner has some Joel Embiid type skills to him. They're both good shot blockers. They're both good offensively in the paint. They're both intimidators in that paint. You're afraid to cross them because they're both very good. So Miles Turner has some Joel Embiid intangibles to him. So I think that would have been a good signing for Brett Brown to go to the Indiana Pacers. Mike D'Antoni. See, I don't think that would have worked. Mike D'Antoni's team, it's a 7-second offense. So he would have to. So basically, that team would have to be pass, go, star player, and they would have to expect a lot out of Victor Oladipo, who I don't think is at that level yet. Mark Jackson, he used to be the head coach back in 2011 to 2014 for the Golden State Warriors. They made it to a few final appearances. Really didn't do much. Dave, I'm sorry if I'm saying this wrong. Georgia, or I think I said that right. I'm not sure though. Dave Georgia or Jorger. He used to be the head coach of the Memphis Grizzlies in 2018. I mean, it's a decent play. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, but again, I don't think that would have been a good fit neither. And Jeff Van Gundy, who hasn't had a job in almost over a decade. So, and one thing I want to go back to Brett Brown, the one underrated part of that Philadelphia 76ers team last year was their shooting. You had Matisse Thybulle, you had Tobias Harris. For one year you had JJ Redick. I think so. 76ers had some decent shooting. And I think Brett Brown would have been a very good head coach. I think out of the notable head coaches that could have had a chance to coach this Indiana Pacers team, I think Brett Brown probably would have been the best choice for that Indiana Pacers team. But we're gonna see what Nate Bjorkgren is gonna do for this Indiana Pacers team. And again, only time will tell. But I think with his resume, with what he has right here, and who he was behind, he he was behind Nick Nurse in Iowa in 2011 too. So he really did get to learn behind Nick Nurse, and Nick Nurse is a very good head coach. So maybe Nick Nurse taught him a few things, and maybe he can apply that to the Indiana Pacers. Do I think this makes them a contender? Not really. I mean, it is the East, but I still don't think the Pacers are a contender in the East. I don't think they're good. I don't think the Pacers have enough to right now to beat the Miami Heat, to beat the Boston Celtics, Philadelphia 76ers,
The Bucks,
um,
the Raptors.
the Bucks, the Raptors, right. If it came to the playoff series, I have all those teams above them. So I don't think this makes the Pacers a championship contender. But I will say this: I think with a little bit of experience, I think he already has some good experience behind him. With a little bit more experience on head coaching a team, give it a year or two, I think he could possibly turn this Pacers team into a good team. And you don't know who's going to come in 2 or 3 years and become the next star.
Absolutely.
So with that being said, um, the front office for the Indiana Pacers is gonna have to make Bjorkgren's job easier, and provide him with the tools that he needs, and provide him with the tools that benefits his system in order for his system to work the best it can work.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with you,
The
man.
time will tell, but I think Bjorkgren is gonna have a decent head coaching career. I think he's gonna do decent in Indiana.
I wish him well. Man, it's funny. As we record this, I'm just watching the World Series. It's the bottom of the eight, 2 outs. It's almost over. But if that finishes before our next topic, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. But anyway, Hold on, let me turn my page as I watch this. All right, we got another topic to talk about. Ryan Fitzpatrick, aka Fitzception, has been benched, or Fitzmagic, however you want to say. I call him Fitzception because dude just throws a lot of interceptions. But anyway, he has been benched for Tua Tagovailoa. Did I say that right, Mario?
Tagovailoa.
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 All right. So
No, tag.
tag.
No, listen. No. We're not gonna let you get away with that because you did the same thing with Lomachenko's name. No. You can call him just Tua. That's cool, but let me tell you how to say his last name.
Yep.
Tagovailoa.
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 Did I do it right?
There you go.
Okay.
That's a lot better.
Tua Okay, whatever.
This
whatever.
dude.
All right,
This
all right.
guy. No. We cannot get on this topic until you say his last name correctly at least once. Tua Tagovailoa.
Tagovailoa. Did I do it right?
All right. Now say it now.
All right. Tua Tagovailoa.
That's a little better, but all right.
Anyway, he has been named the starter in favor of Ryan Fitzpatrick. Mario, I gotta that took long. All right. I mean, let me ask you a question. Is this a good move for the Dolphins, or what are you thinking? Do you think he's not ready yet, or what? What's up?
This might be the toughest topic to talk about today, and the reason why is because the Dolphins really haven't seen a lot out of Tua. See, in the beginning of the season, I thought Tua was definitely a start. I expect a lot of big things out of Tua coming into the NFL, especially when you built that type of legacy in Alabama. So, with that being said, you put him the sixth week, which is Sunday. Dolphins were literally kicking the living hell, or however you want to say. You know what? Excuse me for my language. Kicking the Jets' ass. That's exactly what they were doing. But anyway, and then you put Tua in, and he went 2 for 2 for 9 yards. That's not telling me a lot. Number one, you know what I'm saying? Hey, he completed both his passes, which is something, but it's not telling me a lot. Here's the thing. Let me read you Fitzpatrick's stats so far this 2020 season. He's had 1,535 yards, 10 TDs, 7 picks. He's had a 70% completion. He's had 70% completion, and he's had a 79.6 QBR. Those are not bad stats. Are they MVP numbers? No, but they're not bad stats. So the one thing I want to know is why Tua coming in so late, because he should have came in earlier, and B, what prompted this decision to put Tua Tagovailoa in with no experience, despite the fact that Ryan Fitzpatrick is not playing that bad. And honestly,
go on. Go
on. Yeah, I'll let you say what you have to say, but I'm gonna make my statement real quick. And the only thing I could have thought of was consistency. Ryan Fitzpatrick would have a great game, and then he'll have a terrible game the next week,
Right.
And so maybe they think that Tua is a more consistent quarterback than Ryan Fitzpatrick. And so that's the only thing I could think of on why they would start Tua. So, but I want to know why it took you this late to do it.
I want to answer that because I actually know the reason why. And I actually asked the same thing because when football came back, I was on Instagram scrolling through, sports things, and I seen the poster for the Patriots and Dolphins week 1. And Fitzception was on there, and I'm like, wait a minute. Why is Tua not starting? Why is Tua not starting? So I put it on my Snapchat because I have a lot of sports geeks on there too. They probably know the reason why. Put it on there, and it turns out he was actually injured. He wasn't ready to play yet. So that's why, to debunk that question, you said why he wasn't starting those first other games. He was injured. They wanted to, I think that was a smart move by him. They wanted to, look after and make sure that he's healing better. He's healthy. Yeah, I think that's a pretty smart move. To keep him out for that long. At least shadow him, make sure that he's healthy and he's actually ready to play. So I was wondering the same thing, and that's your answer. He was injured, but my thoughts, like you said, this is tough because despite the interceptions he's thrown, Fitzpatrick isn't playing that bad. I mean, I love it when he throws interceptions for the memes, but he's really not playing that bad, let's be honest. And I get the 49ers are a little crippled, but he still beat a playoff contending team, and that says something. That says
Right.
something. But I think, me personally, I think this, and you are right. They should have. I think personally, if their struggles continued, then they should have put Tua in. If Fitzpatrick started struggling, I mean. But right now, I mean, it's tough because I can't say it's a bad decision, nor can I say it's a good decision because Tua is a good quarterback. And you got to give the kid some time because it is going to be his first game. They're on a bye this week, so he's got to wait a couple more extra weeks. So it's tough because Tua was a great quarterback in college, but the question is, will we continue that greatness in the NFL? And that's the toughest thing about it. It's just stay consistent, stay healthy, and hopefully everything will go as planned.
It's it's a very confusing situation to me because the thing is with this topic right here is Ryan Fitzpatrick Dolphins are riding a momentum wave. They are.
Right.
They started the season bad, but now they're suddenly slowly creeping up and catching up. And now a part of this new 17 playoff system, the Dolphins can
The
definitely make the
Dolphins can make
playoffs.
the playoffs.
I told you this, and people may not believe it, but you can vouch for me. I said it. I said I think the Dolphins are a sleeper team.
I said the same thing. I
So, but
I
it
said the same thing.
confuses me though because Ryan Fitzpatrick is riding a momentum wave, but you sit him down. And so here's the thing: Tua has even more pressure now than he did
And
before coming into the NFL because now with that momentum wave, and now the
he has
Dolphins are
he
starting to
has to
gain a little bit of
follow
momentum.
he
It's
has
up
to
to
follow
you
that
to keep
momentum
it.
wave. He has to
Right.
follow that
It's up to you
momentum
to
wave now.
keep it. Which then leads me to my next question. If Tua doesn't keep this momentum, how does that affect Ryan Fitzpatrick's confidence? How does that affect his momentum? Does he come in and just ball even harder because he was or does he come in and just start lower confidence? So he just comes in and starts playing bad. Does he play the same way that he did before? That's my question. And so it's I don't know. It's very confusing what the Dolphins are doing. And honestly, I might look into it even more. But I'm curious to see how Tua is going to play come Sunday
I'm very curious
because
myself.
Tua
Next
is not a
Sunday.
bad quarterback. Tua next Sunday, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. Tua is not a bad quarterback. He's really not.
he
He
really isn't.
built such a great legacy in Alabama. He's not a bad quarterback whatsoever. He's
The
been plagued with
question is,
injuries.
the question still remains though, will he carry that legacy on in the NFL? That's what still has to be
I
proven.
say so. I think he'll build his own legacy in the NFL. I mean,
I
obviously,
think he will too.
I believe a lot of players in college, when you build that big of a legacy in college, it's very hard to build that big of a legacy in the
Because there's
NFL.
so much pressure on you. But you know
Right.
what? Here's the
And
thing. I get the college and the NFL are completely different, but I think Tua will hold his own. I think he will.
yeah, I think so too. I mean, but when I say build your own legacy from like a statistic point. So
Yeah,
like let me
right.
tell you what I mean. So like let's take Tim Tebow for example. Tim Tebow, I think, is one of the greatest college quarterbacks to ever step foot on a college field. Okay, you tell me another quarterback that has won 2 national championships and a Heisman Trophy. Can't.
Not
So,
many.
not meant. There's not a lot. I would have to do my research, but he's definitely one of them. But when he stepped on the NFL field and he started doing his thing where he went on one knee and put like his fist to his forehead, that little thing right there, his hype his legacy is in terms of hype and gaining fans skyrocketed. Tebow Tebow time was insane. You know what I'm saying? It was so electric in Denver. And the funny thing is, he only goes 9-7 in Denver. His passing completion percentage was terrible, but because he was such an exciting player to watch that one year, that took his hype, legacy wise to like fans and hype. It took it to another level in Denver. But again, legacy statistic wise, he didn't last that long in the NFL. So Tua Tagovailoa is going to build his own legacy in the NFL. Will it be as great as his Alabama legacy statistic wise? The same he did in Alabama. In Miami, I'm going to be honest with you, bro. I do not think so because he was so big in Alabama. He did so many great things in Alabama that I think it's just so hard to replicate in the NFL. But
I
he will have a good career. I think he will have a good career. I think he will. I think him and Joe Burrow, when it's all said and done, come 10, 15, 20 years later, when their careers are over, I think their careers are going to be pretty comparable, to be honest. So, but let me go to this. Again, going back to our topic, it's such a momentum. It's like drained momentum because it's like almost it's almost like they're draining momentum or they're taking a risk on rising it or draining it because Ryan Fitzpatrick has not been playing bad this season. He's been doing some decent things for the Dolphins. They
Nice
recently
catch.
upsetted the Niners, and then they go in and they whoop the snot out of the New York Jets, which you expect them to, but still. So they're doing some decent things on this football field, the Dolphins. Is Tua going to continue doing those decent things? I honestly can't answer yes and no. I believe he can do some decent things, but it's all going to come down to Sunday or next Sunday.
Sorry, Cody Bellinger had a nice catch. All right, I agree. I really do, and I want to add on because, like I said before, it sounds crazy to a lot of football fans these days, but it's true. The pressure is so much more real in the NFL than it is in college. I know there's a high scoring games in college, but in the NFL, that's the real deal. The NFL is the real deal. The pressure's high. And I get it with Joe Burrow. The thing with Joe Burrow, he's the only one on that team that's relevant. Everybody else on that
Right.
team,
But
aside
let
from
me ask you
AJ
this.
Green,
Right.
that's it. But
Let me ask you.
Tua's got pieces to work with. So I think Tua should have a lot less of a problem working with his team than Joe Burrow.
But let me ask this. Let me ask this real quick.
Sure.
It's the legacy that he has built. Let's take Joe Burrow. The legacy that he's built in the NFL. Is it anything close to what it was in that 1 year in LSU?
No.
Not even.
Not even
Joe
close.
Burrow was probably the most beloved person in Louisiana last year, without a doubt. He was probably the most beloved sports figure in Louisiana that year. He was definitely more beloved than, I'm going to be honest with you, he was definitely more beloved than Zion. Big time.
Absolutely.
Definitely more beloved than Drew Brees, for sure. You name it, he was definitely more beloved. Okay? So, but it's because of what he did in college. It's because of the insane stats, the insane record breaking, how he completely kicked the snot out of top 10 teams constantly. He beat Auburn, Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson, bro. Like, he's beat Mississippi State, who was a very good defensive team. So with that being said, he beat, I think, Texas, who's Sam Ehlinger is actually a pretty decent college quarterback right now. I think he's going to be a top 10 pick. I personally believe by the end of this, when the draft's all said and done, Sam Ehlinger is going to be a top 10 pick, but we're not talking about him. But his LSU legacy is so big that sometimes it's just so hard to match it,
Right.
And other quarterbacks, hey, let me tell you something. Other quarterbacks don't really have a big college legacy, and they end up having the biggest NFL legacy, Tom Brady. You know what I'm saying? So,
Right.
I feel bad for a lot of these first-round picks. I really do. But because their job automatically is to build that big of a legacy.
To be that hype beast.
But what people don't understand is what you did in college. It is so some guys, what you did in college, it is like magic. What you did in college, it's sometimes just unlikely or nearly impossible to produce that same magic in the NFL. But let me tell you something. I'm gonna say this right now. If you could produce that same magic that you did in college in the NFL, maybe even go higher, then that is greatness right there. Guess who did that? Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan did that. Guess who did that? LeBron James. LeBron James did that. He had so much pressure as a 17-year-old high school player. Okay, he was getting compared to Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson as a high school player combined. So, but guess what? You had to keep that legacy.
Ooh. Sorry
You
about
good?
that. Yeah, baseball went off Joe Kelly's hand, but the Dodgers did win the game. We'll get to that in a minute. But
Yeah.
anyway, continue.
Let me continue my topic. Okay, he had to continue that legacy, and he did it so. And LeBron did it so bigger. It's so much bigger than he could ever imagine. Not just on the court, but outside the court. But let me finish what I'm saying.
Right.
Tua, Joe Burrow, whatever it is, whoever it is, if your college legacy, if you can build an NFL legacy as big as your college legacy or bigger, that's what I call greatness.
And I 100% agree with you. I really do. See, I'll give Joe Burrow an excuse. The Bengals are, well, the Bengals.
Right.
They got
But I'll
nothing
say
else.
this.
But so I'll give him a couple of years. Maybe the Bengals will build around Joe Burrow. If not, then he's probably going to be out of there.
Right.
However, with
Let me
Tua,
say this.
before I let you get to you, Tua's got pieces. I'll give him a pass because he's being thrown in week 7 or week 8 rather, because it's week 7 this week, right?
Week 7 is this week, yes.
Yeah, so he's going to be thrown in week 8, almost halfway through the year. So there's going to be a little bit of pressure on him, but I'll give him both a pass, given that overall plays for a bad team, and Tua, he's being thrown in the middle of the season, so we'll see what he does. I wish both of them well, I really do. But in the meantime, we shall see if he plays well or not.
Right, and I'm gonna just touch up on this right now. How I'm gonna end this conversation is like this: Week 8, correct? That's the next time he's playing. Week 8.
Yes.
Week 8 is what's gonna start his legacy. That's when your legacy starts. It didn't start last year. It didn't start last week when you went 2 for 2 for 9 yards. That's not when your legacy started, in my opinion. You didn't do enough. Your legacy starts in the next 2 weeks. Or I'm sorry, next week 8. Your legacy starts week 8. Who do you play in week 8? Do you know?
The Panthers?
They're playing the Panthers?
No. Oh, I thought you were talking about my team. The Dolphins are playing. Let me check. All right, that needs to go. All right, there we go. My bad. I thought you were talking about the Panthers. It's been a pretty interesting day. I had to go to the freaking grocery store. Then I went to Nomar's game, which, by the way, they won their game. They're doing a best of 5 for their championship, and they're up in the series 2-0, so that's good.
Hey, when's the next game?
Next game, I think, is Thursday.
Okay.
And if they win this, they win it all.
You know what time Thursday?
That's something I have to ask him. I would assume it's at night because all the other games are at night, but who knows? Maybe. Oh, they got the Rams.
All right. See, that's gonna be a good game to test your to start your legacy off. Are they at LA or are they at Miami?
They're in Miami.
Okay, so I mean, I don't think it would be as electric as if you were in LA, but
yeah,
this is a good game to start. If you can come into week 8 and beat the Rams, and have a good game, this is where your legacy starts, and then from there you just got to push it, and maybe you can even push down momentum that the Dolphins had.
Absolutely.
But it's all going to start week 8, and that's how I'm going to end it.
Absolutely.
Anything you want to touch up on?
I think I touch up on everything. Now, with that said, I'm done watching the World Series. Game 1. Game 1 just ended. Mario, your bet lives for now. The Dodgers are up in the series 1-0 after an 8-3 Game 1 win. Kershaw actually showed up for once. No disrespect to Kershaw, but you don't really show up in the playoffs that much. But this time you did. I'll give you credit. All right, I'll tell you. I can tell you from because I watched most of the game pretty much.
Okay.
Pretty much the hitting died. That's really all it comes down to. I mean, Tyler Glasnow didn't do bad in the beginning. It was only a matter of when the Dodgers offense was going to show up. That offense is electric. Cody Bellinger, Mookie Betts, Corey Seager. There's so many more names I could mention, but those are just to name a few. Tyler Glasnow held his own. I'll give him his credit. But like I said, it all comes down to when the Dodgers offense was going to explode, because he went 3 innings without the Dodgers scoring a run. Then they finally scored 2 runs. Cody Bellinger finally got him with a 2-run shot in the 4th. And the Rays were slowly starting to come back 2-1. Then they let go of 4 in the next inning. I think their bats kind of went low. Their bullpen kind of gave up on them. And to be quite honest with you, obviously the Dodgers are the true winners. I thought Clayton Kershaw was going to have himself a bad game. He actually had a really good game. Let me go to his stats real quick. All right. Clayton Kershaw went 6 innings, only allowed 2 hits, 1 run, 8 strikeouts, a home run, a walk. This is the Clayton Kershaw I've never seen in the World Series before. Like, it's surprising, but you know what? He showed up, and that's good. That's what they need. That's what the Dodgers need. And I think the Rays need to improve on bullpen, because that bullpen was atrocious. 2 runs, I get it. You're playing a team in the World Series. You expect to give up a run or 2. I mean, let's be honest.
Right.
But the bullpen exploded, and that's a problem.
And again, it also helps him too for as if his like with his legacy because it was the same thing with David Bryce back in 2018. You know, this is a
Right.
pitcher that choked in the playoffs in postseason. 2018, he comes out and he starts balling. You know,
Yeah.
and he did it in I think in 2017 too. That one game against
He was
when the
going off
Red
that game.
Sox
I
lost.
remember that. I remember that. He
Yeah,
was going off.
that one good game. But
Now,
again, if we're gonna name a bunch of winners, Mookie Betts is up there for sure. Max Muncy had 2 hits, went 2 for 4. He had 2 RBIs, so that was good. Um, Chris Taylor had 2 hits for 3 I'm sorry, 2 hits out of 3 at bats. Um, yeah, there's a lot of basically almost the whole team had a hit except for 2 or 3 people. Corey Seager didn't have a hit.
surprising.
Jock Peterson and Austin Barnes. Those are the only 3 guys,
Now,
in my opinion, that didn't have a hit.
let me ask you a
I'm
question.
sorry.
Oh, yeah, well, I'll let you
Yeah,
continue. I'll
go.
let you continue. I'll let you continue.
No, I was just gonna say the pitching was. I'm just gonna say I was just gonna say the pitching held their own.
Mhm. They gave up a few
But yeah,
runs,
you can
but
ask me a question.
they gave up a few runs. But like I said, you're in the World Series, you expect that. But let me ask you a question. When Kershaw's winning the World Series, he's not really that great in the postseason. He's got a 12-12 record, over a 5 ERA, or a little under 5. My bad. He went 6 innings, 2 hits. Like I said, 1 run. A walk, 8 strikeouts, a home run. He had an ERA this game of 1.5. Let me ask you, is this a turnaround for Clayton Kershaw in the playoffs? Do you think that he could potentially come back in his next start? If they do,
Well, I'm gonna say
will
this.
this be a turnaround for him?
Usually in the World Series, it's a 3 pitcher rotation, right?
3 or 4, yes.
3 or 4. Okay.
Yeah. That's
I
why I
can't.
said if he has
Right.
another start.
Right. I can't say yes yet. It's a good way to start it. It's a good way to
Right.
start, And when this is all looked back on, if it doesn't get to Clayton Kershaw again, then this is definitely gonna be a highlight in his postseason career.
Right.
So somehow Clayton Kershaw doesn't get the chance to pitch again, and they win the World Series, the Dodgers, this is gonna be a big highlight in his postseason career. Here's a guy who usually chokes in the playoffs, but he came in game 1 and to start the momentum shift for the Dodgers, or to gain the Dodgers momentum early. He came and he pitched an incredible game for game 1 of the World Series. Here's the thing, though. If it does get back to him, he's going to have to do it again to shut all the doubters up. So the mouths are open. Okay, he's closing it a little bit. So the mouth started off like this. The mount is going a little slower, okay? Because he had a good game here.
I know he's taking
But
shots at me, people. I know for a fact he's taking a shot at me.
I'm taking a shot at a lot of people who say Clayton Kershaw's not a clutch pitcher. I'm one of them who says he's not a clutch postseason hitter. I'll admit that. But if it goes back to him and he has another good game, those mouths got to shut about Clayton Kershaw. They have to. Because again, it's a momentum shift. Okay, we did the same thing for David Price. We did
Yeah.
the same thing. He was a choker. Had that one good game in 20. He had a good game in 2017 against the Astros. Okay, did good. Okay, mouth was still moving because again we kept saying he's a choker. Comes in 2018, was one of our best pitchers in the postseason, and now the mouths are kind of shutting. Now David Price doesn't get that doubt anymore about him being a non-clutch postseason pitcher. Clayton Kershaw, if this gets back to him and he starts another game, he's going to have another game just like this in order to shut mouths.
Right.
And again, even if the Dodgers lose the World Series, they can't blame him if he has 2 good games.
There's a lot. There's playing the goal around for everybody.
Yeah, and he had a really good game. I mean, like only 3 guys on the Rays had a hit. That offense was terrible.
Yeah.
In my opinion. Since you watched the game, do you know anybody who hit homers?
Let me go to the stat sheet, and while I do that, I want to touch up on Clayton Kershaw because as a pitcher in baseball, I look up to guys like him. I
Right.
aspire to him. I want as much as I doubt him, and as much as I shit on the excuse me my language. I didn't mean to say it like that. As much as I go on the Dodgers saying they choke all the time, I want this guy to win a ring. I want him to, and I think now is the best time to do it. With that said, let's see what we got for home runs. I don't think the Rays had any, did they?
What about the Dodgers? Does the Dodgers have any home runs?
I think the Dodgers should have a home run. Let's see. Bellinger. That's right. Bellinger had a 2-run homer off Glass now.
Yeah.
I think that's it.
Kevin Kiermaier had
Oh,
a
I know.
homer.
Mookie Betts.
Kevin
Mookie Betts had
Kiermaier.
a home run too. Mookie Betts had a home run. And
Okay,
like
so that's a big one too, and that's a big one for them too. Because if you remember, Mookie Betts wasn't hitting any home runs in that
yeah.
in the postseason. He's got his first homer. Maybe this is the because Mookie Betts, in my opinion, I don't like trashing Mookie Betts. I really like Mookie Betts, but
I love Mookie Betts.
the one thing Mookie Betts, I feel like he's more contact over homers, and he has a lot of homers. Don't get me wrong, like he has a lot of homers, but sometimes I just feel like some seasons I feel like he's more of a contact hitter than he is a power hitter. And so that's not a bad, it's a really good thing for this Dodger team, you know? But again, sometimes I feel like he's gonna have to hit a little bit more homers in this World Series. Again, keep the contact, but I think he's gonna have to hit a little bit more home. I think he's gonna have to put a little more juice behind that bat. And he's got his first homer in the World Series. So I mean, if he can turn into a power weapon for this Dodgers team, then it intimidates. I think it intimidates the Rays a little bit more than before.
I had to agree on you, but I had to disagree on you. Let me tell you why, all right? And this is coming from the baseball player standpoint. I'm a contact hitter. When I hit, I'm contact. And that's, in my opinion, as a baseball player, it's a lot better to have contact than power. Let me tell you why. When you're a power hitter, right? Let me ask you a question. When you're a power hitter, what's the first thing that comes to your mind when you're at bat? What do you want to do?
You want to hit a homer.
That's where your problem is.
Right. No, that's not what I'm saying. But listen.
Hold on 1 second. When you're a contact hitter, you only care about getting hit. You got to find a way on that base. That's the kind of mentality that I expect from most hitters. You know, home runs are good. I'm not saying they're not. They're very great. But when you're a power hitter, that first thing that comes to mind, you want to hit a home run. That's not what you need, especially in a crucial game like this. You need to just get on base in any way possible.
No, I get what you're saying. I 100% agree, but that's not what I'm saying about Mookie Betts.
Right.
I'm not saying he has to swing for the fences every single time he goes up the bat. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is Mookie Betts in this postseason has been a contact hitter. Here's the thing. You look at the players in the MLB that intimidates pitchers. Aaron Judge, Mike Trout, Bryce Harper, this year I'll go Fernando Tatis Jr. He needs to hit a little bit more home runs, in my opinion, just a little bit more, not a lot. I'm not saying like you know what I'm saying, like 0 home runs. Like I'm not saying it's like terrible because he's having a good postseason, but I think he needs to hit a little bit of home runs because here's the thing, Mookie Betts is still the leadoff guy, I believe.
I think so, yeah.
He's still the first batter up. So here's the thing, you got to worry about him, okay? Now, when you're the leader, if you're the first batter up, you get a contact, you get a good single or a double. That's cool and everything. But here's the thing. What are you going to do when the Dodgers are going up first and second and third, and then Mookie Betts comes up, and he's got a little more juice in his bat this World Series? It puts an intimidation factor, in my opinion, on the Rays. And, hey, you can vouch for me or not. You can, because you're a pitcher, so you can vouch for me or not.
Right.
But that little intimidation factor might help the Dodgers get an edge on the Rays, because if he can put a little more juice in that bat, I'm not saying swing for the fences every time, but if he can put a little more juice in his bat this season for the World Series, I think they get that intimidation factor on the Rays. But here's what I'm saying: you're a pitcher, you're a pitcher. You know, you pitched in high school.
Mm-hmm. I pitch in college.
If you knew a guy was a power hitter, I'm not saying are you scared of him, but does that intimidation, does that kind of click in your head like, hey, he's a power hitter, and it makes you think a little bit more about the pitch?
Absolutely. And let me say one thing about the Rays pitching, because like I said, this is coming from a pitcher standpoint. I pitch in college now, so I'm on a higher level. And this is things that I'm learning. You know, like you said, it does intimidate me when I got a power hitter on me. You know why? Because that guy can hit the damn ball. The thing the Rays pitchers need to start doing, all right? I'm not saying it's all of them, because Glasnow held his own. I give him my credit. You know, like I said, a couple runs, you know, you expect that in a World Series. However, you got a power hitter, someone like Cody Bellinger, who's a power hitter. He's got a little bit of both, but I think he's more of a power hitter. One thing these pitchers need to do, they need to change their locations a little bit, if that makes any sense. They gotta aim at different parts of the plate. You know, I understand sometimes you throw a little wild pitch. I do that sometimes. You know, it happens. But when you got a power hitter like that, you gotta look at them and be like, all right, you know, what part are they strongest at in the strike zone? What part are they weakest at? And get fool them a little bit. Throw them a couple of high fastballs, throw them changes, off speed pitches. Hit them in different locations though. So one thing the Rays pitchers did is that they left them most of the time in the same spot, and that's going to cost you. They have to change their
Right.
locations a bit.
And we said this. I believe it was probably the first or second episode. I believe it was the second. Yeah, second. This World Series is going to come down to pitching. It is. It's
Definitely,
not going to come down to hitting.
definitely.
It's
Because
come
we
down to
already know
pitching.
both
These are
sides.
two very good pitching squads.
Both sides have great offense, but you know what? I think the pitching, because both teams have questionable bullpens, but both
Right.
sides have good starting pitching. So it's all you're
Right.
Right.
And the other thing is, both sides have great defense.
Yeah.
Both sides have great. I think both of them are in the top 5 in defense this year. So with that being said, they do have good hitters. They do. Don't get me wrong. But it's all going to come down to pitching and defense. That's what's going to win this game. I mean, I'm not the game. That's what's going to win this series. Whoever's defense and pitching, in my opinion, is the best. Okay.
Absolutely.
And hey, let me tell you something. Right now, it's 1-0 Dodgers. Dodgers pitching was better. Dodgers hitting was better. But most importantly, Dodgers pitching was better. Clayton Kershaw showed up and slowed down the critics and doubters a little bit, just a little bit. He's going to have to do it again if the ball comes back in his hands and he has to start for another game. He's going to have to do it again. But he slowed the doubters and critics down just a little bit. So, honestly, now let me ask you a question. What do you think the Rays – now, let's put it this way. If you're the Rays manager, what do you think – what do you think is the biggest thing that you focus on or the first thing that you focus on?
Well, pitching, definitely. Pitching isn't – if you don't have good pitching, what does it mean to your offense and defense? Nothing.
Right.
I think the pitching's solid. Let's put it at that. Well, like I said before, they need to kind of get in the heads of the batters a little bit, change the location every time. I think the one thing I'd focus on primarily right now is pitching, because the pitching was horrendous. More specifically, the bullpen. So I think as of right now, Kevin Cash needs to go into practice tomorrow before game 2, and he needs to tell his pitchers, all right, you got to pitch to these guys. These guys are the hottest offense in the entire league. You got to pitch to these guys. You got to fool them. You got to get in their heads. Do this, do that. Throw the ball here. Throw the ball there. That's what they got to do. They can't leave the ball in the zone. Otherwise, that ball is going bye-bye. They got. I think pitching needs a little work. Offensively, yes, that needs a little work too. They only scored 3 runs, so that needs a lot of work as well. But I think it primarily comes to pitching.
Offensively, what do you think you would fix for game 2 that they might have not done, or they might have not done enough in game 1?
That's a little bit tougher because I think the base running wasn't that great. I think the base runners need to be a little more aggressive. The batters, it's understandable. Clayton Kershaw has some nasty stuff, but see, here's the thing with that. He's pitching the postseason. There's many films and videos on him. You can watch his stuff. You can kind of get a sense. Walker Buehler is probably going to start tomorrow, and that's going to be trouble for them. He's a great pitcher. Gotta watch.
Good analysis, Nate. Good analysis, because I never even thought about that. Because
you gotta watch these pitches, because if you don't watch them and you go into the game, you're blindsided. Blindsided. And that's that. I think that's what's hurting the Rays offense. I think they didn't study enough. I think personally the offense needs to study a little bit. Same thing with the pitchers. It's a little less on them though. I think it's more on location than on study. The offensively, I think the offense needs to study a little bit, study their pitchers, get a sense of what pitches they're best at, what pitches they're commonly going to throw, and just go from there, really.
Right. And that's what we don't talk about. Like when we talk about experience, we talk about, I don't like to look at stuff on a dark side or a negative side, but we talk about, oh, they have experience. They've been here many, many times, but we don't talk about all the mistakes they make with that experience. And That's something that a lot of teams could pick up on if they're very new to this. So personally, it's all about keeping that ball in play early and scoring early. And it's all about once you score early, because when you have 8 runs in a game like the Dodgers do, and your defense ain't showing up, your offense has to pick up that slack. So with that being said, you start scoring early.
Right.
Okay. Now, if your pitching sucks again and they're like going on it, you don't want them to get very comfortable. So you have to learn on what mistakes you made offensively. You have to learn what pitches did I swing at that I shouldn't have maybe have swung at, or what's he targeting on me as a hitter? Because what he's targeting for me as a hitter, that might be my weakness right there. So for instance, like if I'm a batter and you pitch to me on the inside and I'm not a very good inside hitter, now I know come to game 2, if I'm looking at that film, I need to get better at hitting inside. So for the next 2 days until that next game, I'm gonna work on hitting better inside, hitting balls better inside. And the best thing about the Rays right here that can help them is you have a good pitching staff. So if I'm hey look, if I'm on the Rays pitching staff, I can call up Glasgow, Charlie Morton. I can call them up and be like, hey, I'm looking at film here and they're aiming at the inside of me. That's probably a weakness of mine. So do you mind if we get some like reps in? You throw inside to me as best as you can, and I'm gonna try to get better at hitting them. So come game 2, I can put those types of balls in play and put some pressure on those pitchers to throw something that's more to my suit and strength.
I absolutely agree.
And
And
that's what I think they need to do. That's what I think they need to do right there is figure out what pitches are their weakness. And for the little time that they have, because it is little time, try to get as good as hitting those types of weakness pitches as you possibly can. So if you have a little bit more skill on hitting your biggest weakness, and you get a couple balls in play and you get a couple singles, he might consider throwing balls that are to your strength because you already put them in play, the weakness balls in play, and
Mario
that
had
forces
this
you to open up more stuff.
very great points. And I have to say, you are right. They do have a very tight schedule, with the whole COVID thing. They had to do this very quickly, so they don't have a lot of time to work with this. They usually have a couple of days off in between game 2 and 3. They only got a day off. It's at least they're given some sort of slack. But I think with this little bit of time, use it. They gotta use this to their advantage. Same thing goes for the Dodgers. I think even though the Dodgers are winning, I'm always one to say that you learn more from failure than success. But the thing with success is if you
Right.
succeed, you know what to do. With failure, you have to learn. You know what I
Right.
mean? You
And
gotta learn
failure,
about what you're doing and then apply it into the game day,
and a lot of people don't understand failure is not just losing. Like a lot of people like connect failure with losing, but failure can also be in your wins too. Like remember like Floyd Mayweather, let's take that for example. You go 50-0, okay? But Floyd Mayweather, he's the closest thing to, I think, the perfect boxer, but he is not the perfect boxer. And so the reason what made Floyd so great, in my opinion, is because he was never satisfied. That's the thing. He was never satisfied. So every single fight, there's a weakness that you did. There was something that you could have did better. And the reason what made Floyd so the reason why Floyd was undefeated throughout a whole professional
was
boxing
because
career
he worked on
is
his
because he fixed
weaknesses.
those types of things that he didn't do good those previous fights. So come the next fights, they weren't really that big of an issue. So with that being said, so with that being said, even if the Dodgers won, I guarantee you there are some things that they could have done better, or some guys that could have gotten more involved in the game, and maybe they'll learn from that and come into game 2. Maybe they'll even be more hotter. But as for the Rays, the other thing that it does is as for the offense, when you're picking apart the type of pitches that you might not be the best at hitting at, if you work on hitting them better, you could also hit against the shift. And then again, that also affects the other team's defense because then they're going to a different shift that might better suit you. But they think it doesn't because you've hit pitches that a lot of people believed or the other team believed that were your weak pitches, but because you made them a little bit of a strength, they might get away from that and go to a shift that might be more suitable for you, and then you start creating more plays, you start getting more points on that board. And so that's what I think that the Rays need to do. They need to figure out what they did wrong on pitching, and they need to work on the pitches. And as for the offense, they need to work on the pitches that they didn't hit good with, or that the pitchers that they didn't hit well or they didn't get the bat under, and they need to focus on making those pitches a little bit of a strength so they can open up their weaknesses, so it can open up their strengths even more.
I actually 100% agree, man. I still think it's going to be a dogfight for this World Series. I'm gonna be real honest with you.
You do. I still think it's gonna be a game. I still think it's
You
gonna be
still
5
think it's
games.
going to be a game? We'll
Oh yeah.
find out.
And
We'll
when it
find
does,
out.
I got the perfect jersey for you. You're gonna rep it on this YouTube channel, okay?
All
And
right.
I'm gonna laugh.
Hey. It'll be a nice piece of collection. Let's just say that.
Nice piece of
It'll be a
collection.
nice.
Hey,
It'll be a
that's
nice
the
piece of
bright side
collection.
of
I
it.
probably won't
Positive
even
side.
sell it. I'll probably just keep it hanging up somewhere. That is if I win.
There
You
you
gotta do the
go.
same though. You gotta do the same.
You're right. And hey, look, I like collecting jerseys. I like collecting baseball shirts. I like doing all that type of stuff. And I ain't got no problem with that. Even though I don't like the guy, I ain't got no problem with that.
I still think it's going to be a dog fight. Baseball tomorrow, World Series game 2 tomorrow night. Rays, Dodgers. I gotta check the time. I still think it's going to be a good game. It's probably going to be a great pitching matchup too. Let's see what we got tomorrow.
I think Dodgers take a 2-0, to be honest. Well, let's do predictions right now since it's tomorrow. Actually, you know what? We're gonna say that for tomorrow because we're gonna be uploading early in the
Early
morning
tomorrow.
before the game starts. So I'm gonna save my reasons. I'm gonna
Right.
save my predictions for tomorrow.
All
Anything you
right.
want to touch up on, Nate?
Other than that, Rays, Dodgers tomorrow night, game 2 World Series at 8:08 p.m. on Fox. Tune in. It's going to be a great game. Hopefully, my bet stays somewhat alive. I don't think it's gonna. Something tells me it's not gonna, but I hope it does because I don't lose hope that easily. With that being said, that wraps up episode 3 of All You Can Talk Sports. It's a bit of a tight schedule, but we got it under control. I'm Soupy, aka Nate Campbell. It's your boy Mario. Have a great night, guys.
Peace.